joined here in studio by TD Ameritrade Network contributor Jenny Horn. Good morning to you, Jenny. And also joining us here on the big board, we got the co-host of Fast Market, Kevin Hinks, still with us, and Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com. Good morning to you, Andy. Jenny, starting with you, we're talking big box retail today. We got Walmart, we got Target. What are we expecting here with these companies?
You know, so these companies are interesting because if you look at Target, it right now looks a lot different from a chart perspective than Walmart. Target has hit 50 new all-time highs actually the last 3 trading sessions, but on a longer-term perspective, Target is up about 221% over the last 3 years, with Walmart up about 72%. So we are seeing that degree of outperformance there, but by nearly every measure, these are healthy companies. I mean, online shopping has been a big driver, of course, for both. We saw eMarketer estimate that the country will see another 14% increase in online shopping actually this year, with both of these companies standing to benefit. And actually, an interesting statistic I saw was the consulting firm AlixPartners said 43% of U.S. consumers say the pandemic has permanently changed their buying behavior, which actually brings me to a lot of the buzz I saw on social media today, that being that Walmart has said they will actually close for Thanksgiving this year. So that is what our first tweet sort of responds to, a tweet from Zero Hedge acknowledging this, which says, but don't the Black Friday sales start on Turkey Day? Target, Best Buy, and Macy's are gonna clean up. Now, it's important to keep in mind that Target did previously announce this back in January, so this was not necessarily totally factual because Target and Walmart at this point will both be closed for Thanksgiving. But this just goes to show, really, this was a huge shopping holiday. Now to sort of mitigate some of these crowds, this is what some of these big box retailers are doing. And our next tweet focuses a little bit more on the price activity and some of these inflationary, headwinds we've been talking about. And our next tweet says, check out Costco, Target, and Walmart. Prices on basic needs are up 20 to 30%, and these are also setting up for the next leg higher. I thought this was so interesting because I actually went to a Walmart yesterday. I'm not often at Walmarts, but I did notice things are more expensive, and that's that degree of inflation we see. So Andy, my question to you is really, what are you seeing as far as Target versus Walmart? Because again, like I mentioned from a chart, Target does seem to be the winner there.
Yeah, we see the same thing in LikeFolio data as well, where we're tracking both the growth in the number of mentions of people talking about shopping at these stores, and also the consumer happiness levels of people shopping at those stores. And we plot those against each other. Target just really outperforming Walmart in all areas. It's showing considerable purchase intent growth. So that's more people talking about going shopping at Target, recently versus 2019. And not only that, but those shoppers are significantly happier, almost 12 points higher on the consumer happiness scale. And when we compare companies, we really want to see them in the top right of this chart, and Target certainly fulfills that. So it's no real surprise that the company is doing better than Walmart. From the stock market perspective, I don't think that this is anything new, but I do think that from a technology perspective, it's very interesting to note that Target fulfills almost 100% of its digital sales, its omni-channel sales from stores themselves. And so this is not a company that relies on a whole lot of logistical, shipping and things like that. They've got really good penetration into communities, and it seems like they've figured out how to deliver from those locations. And I think that that gives them a significant edge over Walmart because, like you said, Jenny, there is a permanent shift, and that is the shift towards online with pickup or delivery as the primary options.
Andy, when I look at these two companies, I look at a very, very, very mature company in Walmart that's doing everything right, but still is probably being hurt by the fact that they're a huge, enormous company whose stock ran way up during 2020 and now has settled back into a good, solid level of gains over the last year and a half. When I look at Target, I still think of Target as a company who's really starting to benefit from everything that they did in terms of infrastructure 2 years ago to get ready for the economy that we find ourselves in. They bought Grand Junction, they bought Shipt and Deliv that both focus on overnight delivery. I mean, this company You can say it was lucky, you can say it was good preparation, you can say it how any way you want, but they were set up perfectly for what happened to the U.S. economy, and they're really making up as much ground as you ever thought possible on these other big box retailers. They came from out of nowhere to be a serious player in this space. Am I seeing that right? Is this just a matter of the massive growth in Target versus the steady acceleration of Walmart?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I do think that Walmart has an opportunity. They kind of wasted 3 or 4 years with the Jet.com acquisition. It just didn't work the way they wanted, and Target did a much better job with Shipt. And so I think Walmart has some catching up to do. But the cool thing is both of these companies have the same type of advantage in terms of physical location. And then, do they have the ability to turn those stores into omni-channel digital distribution centers? I think the answer for both is yes. It's just that Target's significantly ahead of Walmart. But like you said, both are doing well. And both of these are really good companies. And so it's just Target has performed much better over the last 2 or 3 years. And with what happened last year, that big acceleration of trends moment that occurred across all industries, Target was just in a much better position to capitalize on it than Walmart was. But going forward, that tends to equal out from here, I think.
Andy, really, really strong points, especially regarding some of the omni-channel build-outs, particularly Target and their success there. Clearly, on a side-by-side between these two stocks, Target's out-executed on many of these different factors, but the stock price is reflective of that too. As we look forward and we try to look at what could be consistent drivers of growth for both of these companies, and you look at some of the other macro trends that you're following, Andy, things like moving away from cities to suburbs, things like millennials starting to build homes and start families a little bit later in life, things that we know are happening, but they're maybe a little bit difficult to quantify. Doesn't that favor Target, especially looking at this data where the younger generation, which is typically a little bit more on social media, seems like they're having a better experience at Target. They enjoy going to Target. They're talking about it. Doesn't seem like that bodes well for Walmart because they're not enjoying it at the same degree.
Yeah, I agree, especially when both companies are really, getting heavy into membership programs. And when you have a membership program, a loyalty program, one of the biggest indicators of future success of that program is consumer happiness. And for Target to be a full 12 points ahead of Walmart in terms of consumer happiness, and the Ulta partnership that they have, bringing younger demographic into the store, I really think that Target is set up to continue to expand the gap that it has between itself and Walmart in terms of the consumer experience. And one thing that we've seen at LikeFolio over and over again is if you're delivering a good experience or a better experience than your peers, things tend to go well for you. And so until we see Walmart start to catch up in terms of that consumer happiness number, I think Target just continues to expand its edge, especially like you said, among that younger demographic.
Andy, one more question out of me. Do you guys ever look at, because from a trading perspective, I can't help but notice when I compare these two companies and you look at the chart of a stock like Target and say, oh my goodness, it's run so far, so fast, it may be getting ahead of itself. That may be the case. But when you look at, let's say the float of Walmart, 2.8 billion shares. You look at the float of Target, 494 million. It's a fraction of the size. Then I look at the price earnings ratio of Walmart, up near 33. I look at the price earnings ratio of Target, around 18. And that really says, whoa, this company still has way more room to grow and get bigger and be more profitable and have a multiple expand more than a stock like Walmart. Because so when you compare these two, and if you have to pick one of the retailers, the metrics on Target look so much more attractive just from the size of the company, how hard it would be to move the stock, or easy in Target's case, and the PE makes Target just look like a better purchase if you're comparing the two stocks, Andy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Target has significantly, Walmart has already proven how big Target could become. I think that's kind of the way I would put it.
Yes.
It really doesn't matter that Target's stock is up significantly more versus Walmart's. There's good reason for that. And I think, the stock market is forward looking, and a lot of the market sees what you and I see on this show. And I think the other part of this is, not in this segment, but down the line, we will be talking about, I believe, on Fast Market, we'll be talking about how these two companies could potentially impact Amazon, Shopify. The list goes on and on. This is a burgeoning space, and these two companies becoming competent at omni-channel selling is a real big deal over the next decade.
Okay, so Andy, I have to ask, I know we're comparing today Target and Walmart, but what about Amazon? Because you mentioned this logistical sort of headwind that actually Target's avoiding with so many of these self-fulfilling stores. What about Amazon? Because Amazon, of course, does not have these, big box retail locations.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the first time, finally, that Target can say it has an advantage over Amazon. Even Walmart can start saying that, in that they have the distribution centers already all around the country, and they're not so reliant on all these centralized locations. Amazon's had some trouble. I think there is some frustration brewing. We see with Amazon's data in terms of delivery times. It used to be next day, 2 days, and then now all of a sudden, even Prime memberships, it's like, we can get it to you Thursday. That's your day. And it's just changed a little bit, that consumer experience, whereas Target and Walmart are moving more and more towards same day, next day delivery as part of these membership packages that can even be free for purchases of a certain size. So, it's interesting to kind of watch that flip on its head, and what used to be Target and Walmart's disadvantage starting to turn into an advantage through technology.
Andy, well said. And as we start to kind of sum up this conversation, you're always so gracious with your time, and we appreciate you letting us pick your brain this morning. I think what I'm gathering is you like Target a lot, but you don't hate Walmart. Walmart's still doing fine. They still have a lot of potential for growth, but they're already so big, and they're losing maybe the execution battle right now with Target. So if you were looking at both these companies, are they both buys? Is it just Target is your favorite among the two?
Yeah, and I think it also very much depends on the risk tolerance of the investor. I think Target will have more volatility than Walmart, no matter what. I do like both companies. I think Target has much more upside, but along the way, definitely a higher chance of big moves, especially to the downside. So you have to factor that in, I think, when you're thinking about how much money to put into either one of these companies.
The co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Andy Swan, it is always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Maybe the higher beta play here. Kev, as we start looking at trading these two companies,